Hey guys, in this video, game designers, we're going to go ahead and show you how to make the eight-sided die all the way from scratch to finish. So we're talking modeling this thing, we're talking unwrapping this thing, we're talking creating the texture for this thing, and then even creating the normal map for this thing, and try to do this all hopefully in a relatively short video. And I mean like short as in like 30 minutes. Let's see if I can get started here. So I'm going to go to quad view because you guys know I like to model in quad view. I'm going to turn on the sphere, and I'm going to go ahead and use snap to grid. I'm going to go ahead and make a 8 by 8, and it's not 8 by 8 right now. I'm going to hit escape and do that again. Here we go, 8 by 8. Just make sure that it's centered because ultimately, as long as it's centered, we can change all the numbers in the channel box. So in the channel box, I'm just going to go 8 by 8 by 8. Okay, I'm going to use my move tool, W here, and move it up. Okay, move right on the flat surface there. I'm going to go ahead and add one subdivision on the height so that we have the perimeter of the dice. And then that's all I need. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my side view here, selecting all the vertices and merging those all to a single point, and grabbing all these vertices and merging it into a single point. And now we have a eight-sided, dice. So that's all in terms of modeling it. Let's go and go to our, our single. You can just hold space and click on the perspective you want to open, or you can just click on perspective or the single view. And it usually uses perspective as the default one. So we're going to go into the next step. Is after we're done modeling it, we're going to go ahead and UV unwrap it. So let's go ahead and open up our UV editor. So my UV editor is already docked here, but if you haven't found it, you can go under Windows and under Modeling Editors. You can look at UV Editor. This will open up the UV editor here and the UV toolkit all at once. So if you don't see the toolkit, you can go under Tools, Hide, or Show UV. That's hiding it. Now I'm going to go ahead and show it. The UV toolkit. I like to dock the UV toolkit on the side where all my other attribute editors and modeling toolkit and UV toolkit are here. And I like to dock my UV editor. If you have it docked out somewhere else, like usually like this, right? I like to dock it right in between. So it becomes like a sub tab. The reason why I want it to be a sub tab and not over here is I want to see both the UV editor and the UV toolkit all in the same scene while also having a good view of my model. So I'm going to go ahead frame here, F to frame. I'm going to go ahead and click on my create. And I'm going to try automatic first and see what it creates. So it automatically kind of grabs all these faces. It looks like it has all these faces ready for me. So you can use any of these projections, but ultimately we're going to make sure that if we turn on this texture mode right here, we can see if the faces and their colors are inside out, upside down, inside out. Um, this doesn't really give us. I mean, we can fix all these, but I prefer not if we have a better projection to start with. So I'm actually delete this. Turn off my textures for a minute. I'm going to use camera base and see if that does a better job. And I think that's what the most models like to use first. So I click on the object. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to go camera base here. So I have basically a duplicate over here. I'm going to go ahead and see if these are shells. This is one solid shell, so that means I need to cut every single thing. So I'm kind of debating now what I want to do. Let's actually go and do automatic again and see if I could click on these individual faces and unfold all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the UV shells, and seems to be one shell, and this seems to be another shell. So that's actually awkward. I take that back. This is not a good way to project this object. What I really want is see if I use normal base. Let me delete this first. And again, guys, deleting the UV shells over here does not do anything to your model. This is just a projection. So I'm going to go back to my object mode and see if I can use my other favorite, normal base. And that seemed to do a much better job. So if I turn on the texture mode, once I'm done, you can see all the faces. Okay, you can see that some of them are great, some of them are not so great. So I don't know if this is still, again, the best jumping point, but let's go ahead and look at the UV shells. It looks like this is all one shell, so that's actually not a good one. So I actually don't even remember what we did inside class, but let's go back to our object mode and go to create and see if we can do any of these other ones. Let's go to spherical. That's not good. Let's go to cylindrical. These are not projected well at either, so that's not good either. And let's go to planar and see what this is. Again, not very good. These are one solid shell, and it has all these. So this is not good either. So I'm just gonna go camera base and just do this manually, guys. So I'm gonna delete all this. So back to what we were doing before. Camera base, I think is what we did and doing in class. So I'm just doing camera base. Click on the object, make sure you select it, go to camera based. Okay, I'm gonna go and cut out each face. So basically what you can do is click on each face and go to create and normal base it and continue to do so. So here's one face. I'm gonna go into each individual face and create a normal base projection. Okay, it will flatten it out. So again, I'm gonna click on each one. I don't know if I click on multiple ones. Let's actually try to do that and see if we can save some time here. I can click on this face and this face and this face together. Let's see if I go normal base. No, it goes it together. Yeah, it has to be done individually. I guess we could cut it and unfold each one, but this seems to be faster just selecting the faces and doing normal base rather than cutting and then unfolding. Just doing a normal base projection on each of the faces. It seems to be the quicker way of doing it. So there we go. One last one, normal based. So now we have all the faces. Now, if you have a wireframe on, this is kind of like I think the default view. You can go to the view mode and go to shaded, and shaded tells you if any of these faces are inside out. So for example, if I turn on my color here, this red face over here, you can see that the letters are inside out, and likewise this face right here is also inside out. So even though it's normal based, some of these might not be inside out. But you can see that normal base, all the squares are consistent squares. They're all the same sizes, and all the letters are, on the most part, good. It's just these two. I'm gonna click on these two right here, and then I'm gonna go to each of these and go to transform, and there is a flip UV. So now it goes from red to blue, meaning that the letters are inside out. So again, this one's inside out. I'm gonna click on flip, and now they're right side up. And now the last thing I'm gonna check is make sure that all the letters are upright. None of these letters are upside down. And it looks like they are all upright. So the only thing that we need to do now is go ahead. I'm gonna turn off this shaded region for a minute just to make it not so confusing as we are going to arrange these. So I'm gonna go ahead and arrange these, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab all the ones that are facing upward. So these 4 over here, left click and drag them all, and we can use the align tools. So under our UV toolkit, there are these align tools right here, and we can click align to left. Take that back. We're going to click align to, I think I want to align to the left, but they're losing their projections, which is weird. I think it's not aligned. Maybe it's arrange. Nope, it's align. That's not what I want. They're collapsing on each other sideways. I don't want that. Let's try aligning to middle. Nope. Wonder why my align tools are not working. Let's see. Transform. Is it because I'm clicking on faces or shell? Let's click on shells and let's see if I click it as a shell and align it. Yeah, it's because I didn't click it as a shell. So when I was clicking it as a face, it didn't like that. But if I click it as a shell and click on all of these, I can align it all to the left, and I can align it all to the middle and all to the middle of each other. So they're all stacked on top of each other here. That's beautiful. We'll do the same thing here. Make sure you're on UV shell mode. Select them all. We're going to align it on top of each other. Okay, and now I can grab all of these, and I can use, let's see if we can use our arrange tool and arrange them all and lay them out. So you can see here, they're all laid out now. I should Control Z that. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it manually. So I'm going to grab this entire stack of UV shells. They're all 4 in here. I'm going to bring them down here, and all these 4 right here. I'm going to grab them all, scale it down to size. Okay, you can see here I scaled it all down to size. And the idea is that I scale them all down to size enough that I can fit all 4 of these lined up here. So I can tell that this is obviously not small enough. So I'm going to go to about, looks like 2 units or less. Okay, and if you have your snap to grid on, these will move kind of in sync here. So I snapped it down to here. I want to make them about 2 units long. So somewhere around there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that I have all 8 of these stacked on top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and try to click on one and choose this to be the first 1 and 2. So these 2 are going to stay where they are. I'll move on to the next one. Use my move tool. And I'm going to move this one over. And again, I have snap to grid on, so it's going to snap equally spaced out. I'm going to grab the bottom one of this one and go ahead and move that out there. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out, hold Alt. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next two faces, click over here, snap that out. Go to here, using move and snap to grid, snap that out, and then go over here, move that over here. And it looks like I'm a little bit shy using equal spacing. So I'm gonna go over there. So it looks like I can scale all these down just a tad bit, or I'm just gonna not snap the grid anymore since they're all kind of equally spaced out. I'm gonna turn off snap the grid and just move them and center it just a little bit right there. Okay, so that should be equally spaced out, or at least close enough. Okay, so now that we have a UV unwrap of this stuff, and again, these are top and bottom, so you can see here, top to bottom, top to bottom, top and bottom, top and bottom, top and bottom, top and bottom. Now, the only thing I'm going to say is that while we are putting numbers inside Photoshop, right, if we're going to put numbers on here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 5, 6, 7, 8, for example, is going to be upside down. I think most dice will have a number 1 right here, but on the opposite side, it'll have like a number 7, for example, but it won't be written like this. It'll be written like this, upside down, because it's a dice. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually end up grabbing all of these and rotating them 360 or 180. So I'm going to turn on my UVs here, and I'm actually going to want these letters to be upside down. So I'm going to rotate each of these triangles. I might be able to do all of them. I'm going to test that first and see if I can save some time. I'm going to go to transform. We have our rotate tool right here, and I'm going to try to grab multiple of these and see if I can rotate them. And it looks like not. So I may should have rotated them before. I'm going to just go ahead and click on each one. Rotate twice. This one, rotate twice. This one, rotate 90 twice. I could change this to 180, by the way, and rotate twice. So 180, 180, 180. So again, I'm going to check on this and see if they're ordered. And again, I want the numbers to be upside down because it is a dice when it's being used. This will be 1. This could be 2, but written the upside down way. And that looks good. So again, we can write it right side up, but when it gets mapped, it will get mapped upside down, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to turn off this texture, and I'm going to go ahead and now export this into Photoshop. I'm going to go into this camera right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on Browse. Again, the quality, 2028 by 2028. TIFF format is the optimal. I'm going to click on Browse here. I'm going to go to File Name, and I'm going to type in 8-sided die, 8-sided dice UV map .tiff, and I'm going to go ahead and put it as YouTube version. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. I actually put in the date because I like being a little bit more organized. Okay, I'm going to click Save. Okay, I'm going to open up Photoshop, go to Open, and go look on my computer where I downloaded that TIFF. Let's go ahead and see if it's right there. And nope, I probably put it on my downloads. On my documents. This is 2009, so it's a reverse date. And I don't know where I saved it. Let's go. Sorry for wasting you guys' time here. This is in the documents folder. It says document folder. Oh, I didn't hit apply. Right. So I'm going to right click, go to object mode, click on the object. Make sure you click on the object and hit the apply button. And now you can see here that it saved it as 8-sided die YouTube. So I'm going to go back to my Photoshop. There it is, 8-sided die UV map YouTube version. Here, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And you can see it's relatively dim. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and choose a base color for our dice. This is going to be our texture map. So in this part of the video, we're going to actually create multiple maps for this. We're going to create first the texture map, just what the colors will look like. And then secondly, we're going to create a normal map to actually create a ingress. So like kind of a hole, a dip for the letters. Okay, so we'll show you how to do that real quickly. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a background. I'm going to just take a rectangle, and I'm going to make a background here. And I'm going to make my dice, let's say purple color. I'm going to drag it underneath here. I'm going to go over here to color. I'm going to just choose some gnarly purple color here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and create myself some references. I'm going to go to View, Rulers, get some rulers out here. And I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm not going to go too crazy over being accurate here. I'm going to just pull over some reference lines where I want my numbers to be. And I think Photoshop will snap to these guides. All right, I'm going to grab some of those, make some numbers right there, and make some numbers right there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and lock my guides now. View guides. I'm gonna lock my guides. Okay, and I'm gonna go write some numbers. I'm gonna write some green numbers here. I'm gonna go to my text tool. I'm gonna choose the color green, some neon colors here, and I'm just gonna type right here and see if this allows me to create a text layer. It's creating kind of a bizarre place here. I'm gonna hit escape. I didn't like that. I don't know why it put it over there. I'm going to delete this and try it again. Text tool, and I'm wondering why it's not creating right where I click. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. So I'm gonna type in the number 1 here. I'm gonna do like 1, 2, 3, 4. Just something different, random pattern here, and it has a font of 48. So I'm gonna select my text and go change that to like 72 or something. So there's number 1. Okay, and once you have 1 done, you can just click on that layer and use your move tool. Okay, and make sure that you have your show transform controls off so that you're not clicking on those widgets. It's really easy to click on widgets. So you want to turn it on or off depending on what you're trying to do. I'm not trying to scale it. I'm just trying to move it. So I'm going to turn on my auto select, turn on my layer, and I'm just going to use Alt, left click, drag. And I'm going to drag it to the next one. And it's going to tell you if it's aligned with your other one. That one's aligned to the middle. I'm going to move this one, align it to the middle as well. So again, just the move tool, have you see it aligned. Hold Alt, left click, drag. You'll see that it's aligned to the middle. Alt, left click, drag, align it to the middle. Alt, left click, drag, line that there. Alt, left click, drag, line it there. Alt, left click, drag, line it there. Alt, left click, drag, line it there. Okay, I'm gonna go in now and change some of these numbers. You can just double click. This will be 2. This will be 3. This will be 4. I'm gonna try to double click on this one. A little bit hard here. I don't know why not letting me. There we go. That one I'm gonna change to 5. Change this one to 6. Change this one to 7. Or 7. 7. This one's gonna be 8. And now your numbers order doesn't matter, guys. I'm just giving you an example. So this is it. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what the texture or the color of our dice will be. I'm just going to turn this off, so make sure that when you export this, you're going to turn off the reference line so that you don't have these hard color edges showing up on your model. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Export as JPEG. Okay, JPEG. I'm going to leave it in the same resolution that the document was in, 228 by 228. I'm going to click Export. I'm going to export it into my Documents folder. I'm going to call it 8-sided die texture. 8-sided dice texture. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. That is half of our job. So now that we got this is basically our texture map. I'm going to regroup all of these. So I'm going to grab this and kind of layer all these groups. If you hold Shift, select them all, top to bottom, you can create a folder. I'm going to call this folder Texture. Okay, but we're going to duplicate this folder. We're going to right-click, Duplicate Group. Okay, and we're going to call this group the normal map. So we're going to create a normal map. And again, a normal map is just going to show the different heights for our object. Whether it's going to be white color, meaning that it's going to be a bump, or if it's black color, it's going to be a hole. Usually these dices will have like these little grooves for the numbers. So we're going to make it holes. We're going to make them black. And we're going to soften up the numbers a little bit too. So I'm going to go ahead and click on these. And since they're all text objects, I can still go and change the text. Now, some of you guys might have already turned your object into rasterize. If you rasterize them, they're no longer text objects. They're like pixels. And you're going to use the paint bucket tool and turn these to black. But since mine are all still texts, I can just go over here and change them all into a black. Okay, so they're all black. And my background right here that is purple, what you want to do is use middle gray color in order to represent the flat surface. So white is a bump, black is a hole, and gray is what's flat. So I'm going to go in here and change everything to 128, 128, 128, which is like middle gray. I'm going to click OK. And I'm not wondering why my rectangle is not turning into gray. Let's see. Oh, because I'm using the text tool, right? So make sure you know what object you're doing. I'm clicking on a rectangle tool, but I'm in the text tool. So you click on the rectangle tool and go in there and change the fill color. And again, I'm going to use middle gray. So that looks like middle gray to me. That looks black. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is give it a little bit of a blur. I don't want these numbers to be like a straight hole down with a sharp bevel. I want to blur it just a little bit here. I'm going to turn off my guides for a minute. I'm going to, I don't want to clear my guides. I just don't want to see them right now. So let's see, where is that show guides? I'm going to turn off my guides for a minute because I kind of got my guides good. I can always turn them back on later. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just blur these numbers a little bit here. So I'm going to select all these numbers. And again, this is just a copy of my texture. I still have my original ones here. I'm going to rasterize all of these, and I'm going to blur them a little bit. So if you try to, you can do this individually, but I'm going to just do all 8 numbers in a row. So I'm going to click on all 8 numbers. I'm going to right-click, create one smart object. I'm going to click on that one object. I'm going to rasterize it all, turn it all into basically pixels. And I'm going to go into our filter here. I'm going to use a blur tool. And I'm going to use blur, box blur. And you can see the numbers right here are starting to blur. And this is with a radius of 10. Now, if you decrease the radius, the blur will be less. So it's down to 5. Still pretty blurry. I want to make it not look blurry. Maybe I go 3 here. 3 looks good, right? The numbers are slightly blurry, okay? And it's going to create a little bit of a transition, so it's not just a straight hole. So it's going to be some drop. Maybe I'm going to make it a little bit more blurry. I'll go up to maybe 5. Let's go up to 5. So again, this is just creating geometry or the fake geometry, right? So you're creating normal maps to kind of create fake geometry. Our colors are still going to be what we originally designed, but this map is going to help create some geometry to make it look a little smoother. So I'm click OK. So now that I have a black and gray image, this will be accustomed to what we call a bump map or height map. Black represents the most lowest level, the gray represents the flat surface, white represents the highest surface. But this is not a normal map. This is more like a bump map. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 layers, both the gray and the blacks. We're going to go ahead and rasterize it, or convert it into one smart object, rasterize it. And now we're going to try turning this bunch of pixels combined with black and gray. I'm going to go into Filter, 3D, and generate a normal map. Now, I already rasterized it. If you didn't rasterize it, it's going to ask you that you want to rasterize it. You're going to say yes. So to give you a preview right now of the ball. Now, I do remind you that this is Photoshop, and if you're doing it in the lab or you're doing it at home, Photoshop does have bugs when it comes to this kind of whole 3D looking thing. But if you kind of see roughly that you have it right, you should be good. We're going to turn the blur off, because maybe we do want hard edges, maybe we don't. Blur just increases the blur of the numbers. That's way too much loss of detail. I'm gonna go no. I'm no blur at all. If we're doing like rocks or something, we might increase that higher. But with just the numbers, we want to see the numbers nice and well. I'm gonna turn the detail even higher. I'm gonna turn the detail to about 110%. And I clicked OK already, so it's already created it, and you can see that it's a normal map. Again, we talked about what normal maps are and what the highlights are. A cyan light is coming from the top. A purple light is coming from the right. Near purple is from the left. So again, you can see that these are holes. So if a purple light is coming from the right, the light is going to shine in the hole on the left side. Okay, so this is exactly what we're looking for, a hole. Okay, so again, now that we're done with that, I'll make sure I turn off my textures. This is my normal map here. So I'm going to go ahead and export this normal map. Again, make sure you don't have these lines showing. I'm going to go into File, Export, As, and we're going to go ahead and make it JPEG again, 2028, Export. I'm going to export this as 8-sided dice UV normal map. Or I'm just going to call it normal map. Click Save. And now I have both files exported into my documents folder ready to go inside Maya. So this is when I'm just going to go ahead and save this project. Make sure you guys do a good job of saving this project as well, because you might come back to it later. It's a TIFF file right now, and you want to save it as a Photoshop file so that you can come back and work on it later. I'm going to call it 8-sided die. I'm just going to call it UV map. It's fine. So basically, I'm just going to call it the maps, because we're technically making multiple maps, making a texture map and a normal map. So I'm calling it 8-sided dice maps PSD file. I'm going to click Save. So now I saved the Photoshop file. I can close it, or I can keep it open in case I want to make some changes. But I'm going to go and open up Maya now and get back to what we were doing here. So back to here. Let's go ahead and teach you guys how to create a material using our 2 maps. I'm going to click on the Hypershader window here. And we're going to go into this Create part. And we're going to type in AIS for AI Centered Surface. If you click on the Arnold folder, it should show up inside here. You'll see it right here, AI Centered Surface. When we click on it, it's going to open up the AI Surface node and the, I think it's called a shading engine right here node. But we're mainly worried about this node right here. we're going to do two things. I'm going to change the base color, maybe some speculars to make the dice look cool, and then we're going to go in and add some geometry. So let's go ahead and start with the color. Instead of having a base color of gray, I'm going to use, I don't know, maybe the shader ball or something. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change the color. It's not going to be gray. I'm going to click on here. I'm going to click on File, and you'll see that it adds a texture node and a file node. And on the file node, we're going to be able to change the file name. I'm going to go into image name, go into my documents folder, and I have a 8-sided die texture YouTube right here. So it's going to turn it into purple. And if you rotate the shader bar, you can actually see the other numbers. You can see it right there. So again, these are just numbers, flat coloring here. That looks good to me. Okay, we're going to go back to our file node, go back to our shader over here. We're going to make maybe a, whether it's roughness or metal. This is a dice. So I'm going to give it some roughness here. Okay, and speculars, I'm going to make it, keep our speculars high. We're going to reflect some light, and it's usually white color. You want to usually use specular white colors. Roughness, I'm going to keep it the same. So maybe I'm going to go 0.25 here. I'll make the roughness the same here for the speculars, 0.25. Okay, I got the IORs. This is going to be kind of like a marbly plastic color. You guys can look up a document later on that we will cover what IOR values to use for various materials. It just shows you how much light is reflected based on the material and how much it gets reflected back, how much goes through it. We're going to go into, not going to touch any of these two. I'm not going to change any directional bias for our speculars here. The only thing we're going to do left is add some transmissions because we do want this to be kind of transparent, right? So if you increase this up, you can see that it becomes more and more transparent. So we're going to go a little transparent here, and I'm going to make the color kind of purpley as well, kind of match that color. So I'm going to kind of go into purple right here and try to go into a darker shade. Okay, so just to make the color kind of purple and kind of transparent, so I'm going to go maybe even just go halfway, just for a certain reference. So this object will be a little bit see-through. Now, if you want to see what some, like what it will look like, right, in terms of, what it might look like behind it, you can go to here and go to, for example, interior, because most likely we use inside interior with color, and then render it using Arnold. Okay, and you can see that it's going to take up a lot of resources here, but you can see what it'll look like sitting on a table or something. This looks like it's sitting on a table. Interior. I wish there was like something like a table or something. I don't know if it's on a table or not. It looks like it's not on a table. It looks like it's just floating in midair. Okay, but you can see that what it will look like inside the interior room. So that's good. Maybe I'll just do like interior color here. Okay, so you can render it and kind of see what it looks like as you're making and picking your AI standard properties. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this because my computer is not liking me very much right now. Okay, let's go back into hardware, kind of see what it sort of looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in geometry. I'm going to go into geometry. I'm going to go into the bump map, and I'm going to click on File. And you can see that it has 3 nodes. It has the texture, the file, and the bump map. On the file, we're going to go and click our normal map. We're going to go over here. We're going to go into our documents folder. We're going to click on our normal map here. It gets loaded. Now I'm going to go into the bump node, and this is very important because this is a normal map. You have to know what kind of map it is. It could be a height map. It could be a normal map. Normal maps are called tangent space normals. We're going to click on that. And now it's going to apply that texture and create that bump map. So now we're going to have the illusion that the numbers has a little hole in it, or what we call an ingress. So again, make sure that your files are connected to your texture, and that this file is connected to your normal map, and that you change your bump node setting to tangent space normals. We're ready to apply this material to our dice. We're going to close this. We're going to go to our dice. We're going to right-click. We're going to assign an existing material. I didn't rename this material. That's a very bad practice. Let's actually go back. Make sure that you guys, when you guys create a material like this, that you rename it. We're going to click right here on this node and go here and rename it. We're going to rename it dice material. Just use my dice. My 8-sided dice material AISS. Okay, and now that we renamed it, we're going to close the hypershader. We're going to go back to our object, right-click, and assign existing material. We're going to assign the material that you just created, my 8-sided dice material. And you can see that the texture gets applied, and it's not going to look what you think it looks like until we turn off the shaded view here, go back to wireframe, okay? And again, this is our dice without shaded view on. Let's go ahead and turn on our shaded view. We click on 6, and now you can see what it looks like inside our viewport, okay? So it's starting to look really cool. You can start to see the numbers are engraved. Now, this is not inside Arnold View yet. This is still inside viewport, but you can see our geometry starting to look good. The only thing we're going to do left is add a quick bevel, guys. I'm going to go into, to make our dice look a little bit more rounded, not so sharp. We're going to go into modeling. We're going to go to edit mesh. We're going to go to bevel. We're going to click on the bevel tool. And it should give us bevel options here. So we can increase the fraction. So we're going to go very small here. I'm going to go 0.1. Just a small bevel. Number of segments. You can see here I'm increasing the number of segments. It'll look more and more round. So just with 2 segments, you can see how it looks. Now, if you want to see what it looks like, just go ahead and click on edges. You can see that it creates these edges right here as we're doing the bevel. And that's all we needed, you know. And we got 2 segments with 0.1, and we have a really good looking dice. Now, let's go ahead and show you guys how to make it a beauty shot, okay? So to make a beauty shot of this thing with Arnold Render, we need to add some lights. So what we're going to do is we're going to close the UV editor because we did a good job of that. We're going to go into split view here. And this is how I like to do it. I have one here in our viewport. I'm going to go over here, go to Render, Arnold. The Arnold window will pop up, and sometimes you would have to, like, you know, this window is sometimes smaller. Mine's pretty large. But sometimes small window looks like this. And it just tells you that if you want to turn on the render, just go and hit play. I'm going to hit play. And now it's rendering in Arnold. I'm going to go to panel, go to perspective, so that we're both doing perspectives. And now I just need to add a light, because you can see here in render view with Arnold, there's no object because there's no light. So I'm going to go ahead and go to a Arnold here. And my favorite quick one to do is just physical sky. I'm going to click on the physical sky under the Arnold tab. Click on that. And now you can see what it looks like in the physical sky using physical sky light. Now you can click on this dome and you can change, you know, some settings. If you go to your attribute editor under the AI physical sky number 1 node, you can change the color of the light and the intensity of the light. I'm going to increase intensity to about 2. Okay, and now I'm going to click back on my object, and now it shows me what it looks like with intensity of light of about 2. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the grid here and go ahead and hit play. And oh, you can click on this little frame button to kind of frame your picture, what angle you want to frame it to really crop it on your beauty shot. So you can always use Alt, right-click, drag. That's actually a better way of zooming. I'm kind of get lazy. I kept using the mouse wheel. But if you hold Alt, right-click, drag, it's actually a more accurate way of zooming because it doesn't move your pivot. Okay, so I kind of got this beautiful frame here. I'm just going to hit play and render one scene before it keeps rendering live. And hit the... I should be able to see the top of my dice. I'm going to go back and open that up. So I'm going to hit stop. Hit play one time. And I'm kind of surprised that this is cutting out the top, because in here, I'm not cutting out the top. So I don't know why. This thing should tell me what the frame looks like. I'm going to try again. Hit play. Huh. It's interesting. It's a little bit off. I don't know why. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. And try it again. Go and click this. I'm wondering if this is even rendering. Oh, I can hit refresh. There you go. Okay, so I need to hit the refresh button. My mistake, guys. It was working. I just need to hit the refresh button. I'm going to crop it right here. Go back to my play button. I'm going to hit the refresh button. Stop. Refresh. Hit play. Huh. I don't know what's going on, guys. I think it's just because it's taking a while to refresh, because it should be cropped where I see the top. So let's give it a moment to let it render. You can see right here the bump of the number 1, right? The bump of the number 7, the bump of the number 2, right? So it really gives it geometry. It really gives it a feeling that it has actual geometry, actual depth. I still don't know why that it's not refreshing what I have on the view. Like, it's a little zoomed in. That is kind of tilting. See, it should be within my frame. So I don't know what's going on here. Let's click on render preview. Hit play. I don't know, guys. It should be. I'm going to hit play. Okay, I don't know. Okay, guys, I don't know why the camera seems to be a little bit off as you go closer. But give me a beauty shot right like this, just like this. So go ahead and take a screenshot of this, submit it in for me, and I'll see you guys next video.